and so all right. All right, that so anyone have any more questions before I move on?
Yes, I don't think I got the the comparison between Erlang and Elixir. What remind me, what was the reason that this person Josie said, or
Uh Jose,
Jose? Okay. What was the reason that they like wanted to make Elixir again instead of, it seemed like they were influenced by Erlang, but there was something it didn't have.
so he liked the benefits that the Erlang programming language offers. He just didn't like how the code system was set up. So this is what Erlang and Elixir is for is basically a more user-friendly way to use the Erlang Beam engine. So yeah, when your Elixir code is run, it basically gets compiled into Erlang Beam bytecode, and
Oh,
then that bytecode is run in the Beam.
gotcha. So it's just an easier way to
Yeah,
run that. Okay.
yeah, and then also yeah, if you want a new language, there's Gleam, which you can look up later. All right, that's the end of the first one. Right. And yeah, that's the so this is the Phoenix framework, and in case no one's noticed yet, this is the Phoenix logo on my shirt. So what is Phoenix? It's essentially a Ruby on Rails like web framework, but written in Elixir, and it uses the MVC pattern. And like I said, uh, it allows you to make fault tolerant web applications that can scale. And then also the other use case I've heard that Phoenix is good for is like streaming type of content. I think you can make like a better YouTube with this kind of framework.
Oh, interesting. Um, so it's like it's built on top of uh like network protocols, or
I yeah, it's yeah, I've heard that it's built on top of the Cowboy server in Erlang, but that's under the hood, so you don't see that in the code. Yes, so and yeah, and then also on top of the Cowboy server, it uses the plug library and to how it deals with requests. And what it does is that there's a con data structure, which is like has all the details of the requests that people who build web apps and REST APIs are familiar with. Like what protocol is it using? What's the endpoint it's trying to access? And what method is it using? Like details like that. And all it really does is all Phoenix really does when you go through is just transform the con data structure as it goes through the pipeline, and you admit a response. But yeah, one quick detail before I go. So in Erlang, data is immutable. But Elixir works surrounded by quietly making a new version whenever you change the value within the system, so that you don't really notice it. And then PHX, that's actually gonna be the script that you use to create and add stuff. So actually I was able to use this to add my own details to this. So uh it does it does a lot for you, just like Ruby does. So that's why I think that it's great for small teams. And then to create a new project, first you have to have Elixir installed, and then run mix this command. And what this will do is it'll install phx dash new, and that'll install the script. And then also you have to make sure that you have a appropriate database that will be installed. So if you're just trying out, I recommend that you just install PostgreSQL onto your system, simply because that's the default. And if you want no no database access at all, or some other type, then you'd have to um uh put that in the flag when you run the new commands. So mix phx.new project name, and that's actually how you get to create your new project for you. So yeah, it's definitely a very helpful batteries included type with web framework. So one of the things that it it creates for you, it installs for you, is Ecto, and Ecto is the ORM, which for those who don't do web application development, it's basically translate your requests for data objects into SQL code, so that way you can make it easier to manage database data. And HEX, and that's a templating engine and that's used by Phoenix for the view part of the MVC. And so yeah, if you're so I think Zach mentioned C#, it's kind of like Blazor. um and if you're familiar with PHP, it basically works by um running the Elixir code within the HTML file, just like PHP code. And then controller um handles HTTP requests, and it works by accepting the con map, which is the actual term, and then transforms it into a different map for the response. Schemas, they're the model part of MVC, and they're used to specify data models, and are connected to Ecto. So but when you want to add one, you have to add it in, and then once you're done, you have to run the command ecto.migrate in mix in order to get the ecto to recognize your new scheme. And then some other features. This is just the tip of the iceberg, so I'm going to mention just the basic stuff. So WebSockets, it's really good for data streaming and live data feeds, authentication for making sure that only the correct users can see or access the appropriate content. And then also, you can also make JSON REST APIs with it, which is what I've done in my project, and also it has its own unit testing system, which I don't really do on my own. And then although like there hasn't been much Phoenix adoption lately, I found like two big name companies that already use it, and it's System 76. And for those who aren't familiar with it, they essentially sell computers with Linux pre-installed. And then the Financial Times, a big newspaper. So yeah, it's I kind of see why they want Phoenix. And then any more questions before I move to the demo?
You want unit test? I'm just playing with you.
Yeah, I don't really take it serious. I'm just trying to mess with it so I can learn.
Sure, no, I'm just playing.
All right.
So System 76 does Pop OS, so what's them to gain by using Elixir versus something else?
Essentially reliability if they're
That's the name of the game for them with using Elixir.
yeah, and Phoenix yeah, it's because Elixir was originally designed for fault tolerant telephone applications. It's really good for being like a reliable system, and one of the big killer features for Erlang and Elixir, and then also Gleam, is that you're able to essentially run updates while it's working. Because like most projects that do this do it by like turning off the server and then making the changes, then turning it back on. With the Beam virtual machine, you can just like put your updates up, just keep running. All right. I'm gonna move over the my project into here. Come on. Yeah, VS Code for the record.
While we're waiting, I'll throw out that I have my main PC is from System 76, but it does not run Pop OS. And I used to have a subscription to the Financial Times, but I'm sure that was long before they started using Phoenix.
I Linux computer and put Windows on it.
I said it wasn't Pop OS. It could be Arch or something.
Yeah.
I run Ubuntu on my System 76 machine
Automatic.
with XFCE, a real Windows system.
All right.
Gotta burn someone.
So here's my project that I made for this. And the weird thing is like I didn't have to like write any code, much code in this case, because I mostly relied on the PHX to generate for me. which is what I like when and what I would use if I was in a hurry to make something. Yeah, so here's the message controller.
It might
Oh.
not be seeing the same thing you are.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh yeah, I moved over to this too.
Maybe mirror it.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. Yeah. Most monitors are designed not to mirror, so. All right. Come on. All right. Trunk. Oh yeah. Here's Bruno. And that's who I'm using for my requests. Aha. There we. Yeah, so that's my controller. So you have the con object for create.
Do you mind increasing the font size a bit?
How would you do that?
Control shift plus.
Yeah.
Okay. Control shift plus.
When M.
See, all the only shortcuts I know. Man,
Well, it's Pop OS.
yeah.
Yeah, this is Pop OS.
Jump there after, jump to the door. I miss it still.
So yeah, I'm the opposite of you, John. This is a Lenovo ThinkPad and I'm running Pop OS on it.
What is the like less than hyphen do? I see a bunch of that, like in line 31, between with and the message that.
Oh, yeah, it's the yeah, I remember now. It's the anonymous function. Yeah, it's saying like this is the anonymous function, and here's the statements that's running. And then here's the model that I made. So see, I'm using Ecto for this. And then now,
Is it better for glare?
yeah. And then now I'm using Bruno to look at. So I'm gonna go over back to the terminal and yeah,
What
mix
was Bruno?
each.
Is Bruno just for making requests?
Yeah, are you familiar with Postman?
Yeah, I use.
Yeah, it's basically Postman. So while with the server running, I'm gonna ask it for the data. And then here's my content, so it'll send me the data. So let's see if I wanted a new message with the body of hello world. And so it created a new message for me with the content of ID. Get one. And then let's change it to 3 so that we can get the get our new message. There we go, we got it back. Now let's change it. See what we're gonna change it to. So we're just gonna change it to hi. There we go. So it's changed. And then now, unfortunately, we're gonna have to delete it. So change the to 3 and yeah, it's now deleted. So to prove it, I'm going back to here and it'll give me the same thing. All right, yeah, it's all for my demo, unless you also want to see a 12-minute documentary about Elixir. Yeah, you guys want to see the documentary?
Sure. We got, I got time.
Yeah.
I remember like my first computer was a Pentium 100
That's
megahertz.
him.
I would be in school and then a friend in school would say, I got a computer that's like 233 megahertz. And I'm like, how? I just bought mine. Mine is new. And then now you have something that is like twice and a little bit more faster. But that's how
That's
it
him.
happened for a long time in the sense that the hardware every 2 years, it would get, for example, our CPUs every 2 years, it would get twice faster. And for software engineering in general, what it meant for programmers, developers is that if you write a code today and you don't do anything with this code, 2 years later, you would have the opportunity to run this code twice faster. But this is no longer true today. So what it means that before we had only one CPU that was getting faster and faster, but now we need to have multiple of them. And that actually changes the way we write software. And the languages that we consider mainstream languages, they are not as efficient, as effective as it could be. Imagine that, like in the 80s, the telephones, it's really getting widespread, right? Everybody's installing a phone. If you have a city with millions of people, right? You need to install a bunch of telephone switches and you have calls coming all the time, right? And the calls going out, so information is coming and going. When it's working hours, you have much more people using the phones, right? And all this kind of stuff. So they had to solve this problem 3 decades ago, and they did. So what happened is that Ericsson, they created Erlang. This technology that they created, right, in the 80s to solve all these problems, it's going to be perfect to solve those issues that we are having right now with concurrency, those issues that we are having with the web in general, right? I think that was the moment when I had the idea of creating a programming language. Like, look, I have this absolutely beautiful piece of software, which is there in virtual machine. I want to use it more, but it's missing some stuff, and I want to try adding this missing stuff. So in 2012, it was the moment that I started working on Elixir part-time, and I think we can use this software to expose an alternative for the programming community if they're interested in solving all those challenges that we're having right now.
You can do everything on the internet. You can find everything. You can book everything, but it's still in silos. So you will find your flights on Skyscanner and Kayak. You will find your rail connections on Bahn.de. You have to figure out, how do I get to the airport? How much will my transition time will be? What is the prices of different tickets from different airports and so on? And we thought it would be a great idea to have this in one UI. You would enter your origin and you would enter your destination, and we find the whole itinerary. We immediately realized that this is something that is very hard to do. For every search that we do, we have to open a lot of connections to different transport operators. We have a lot of connections open at the same time to different operators, and you have to consume this data and process it in a smart way, and it has to be fast. This was basically the point where we thought about what technology is the right technology to go for. One of the characteristics that we were looking for was scalability. So you literally have tens of thousands connections open all the time in both directions. And this is one thing that is Elixir is very good for this, and very low in terms of the resources you need on the server side. We pretty fast came to the conclusion that Elixir is the right technology for our problem. We used, of course, job boards like Honeypot and others to find people. We also basically trained people that did something else before and trained them to Elixir. Of course, we have some hiccups sometimes in the code, or we have some bugs that we created, but we never had outages in terms of the infrastructure, which is for me a very good indication that this is the right technology decision, because I never experienced this before.
So one of the big things about Elixir, and that we get exactly from building on top of the Erlang VM, is that we can write distributed software that runs in more than one machine. So you can see here, I have 2 machines. And so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to start one Elixir session on this machine and another Elixir session on this machine. So in this one, I'm starting something called interactive Elixir on both of them. But this one, this is Bob's machine. So I'm going to say, hey, this Elixir instance has the name of Bob. And we have a secret here, a cookie, which is a secret, but we're just calling it secret right now. So I'm going to start this session here on Bob, and I'm going to do the same thing on Alice. So I'm starting Alice session with the same cookie secret. All right, so what I'm going to do this is that I'm going to define some Elixir code. And I know this is a little bit cliche, right? But I'm going to define a module called hello with a function called world in it. And I'm going to, and what all this function does is that it prints hello world. So I defined this code, ignore the whole gibberish for now, but I defined this code, and then now I can call hello.world. And you can see that it prints hello world, beautiful, right? So it works. This is very exciting. So this is Bob's computer. But now let's go to Alice's computer. If I try to invoke hello world, it doesn't work. Why? Because I defined this code, I defined the module hello with the function world, only in Bob's computer. But we can solve this, right? Because it's distributed, I can make those machines talk to each other. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to say, hey, I want on Alice's machine, she's going to say, hey, I'm going to tell Bob to execute this code for me. So you're going to say, hey, Bob, the Bob instance that is running on Bob machine, I want you to execute the hello world code. And now when I do this, we can see that we got hello world printed back. We can see that it works, right? Because Alice was able to tell Bob, execute this code for me. Bob executed that code and say, hey, I executed this code, and this code has a hello world message that I'm sending back to you so you can print. And that's it. And what is really exciting about this is that we can build a bunch of interesting technology that just runs on these nodes being connected. So for example, the Phoenix web framework, it has a presence feature and has a pub sub mechanism. So with the pub sub, what you can do is that you can send messages to everybody connected to any machine. And with the presence feature, you can know everybody that is connected in the whole cluster. And you can know who is joining, who is leaving, and we can do all of that without adding databases, without adding third-party dependencies. We just use the distributed feature, which is really exciting. One of the things that we did since the beginning is that the development was always open source. So everybody could join at any time and give their ideas, contribute, share. So I also knew from the beginning that if I wanted this thing to happen, I would have to go out and talk to a lot of people and go to different events and convince developers why they should care about the technology, what are the potentials of the technology, and get them excited about it. We really started to see like an uptick in people using Elixir. And that was kind of like the beginning of a turning point, because it was like people, they're actually starting to bet on this. So you don't feel alone in the sense that, there are other people believing in the potential and want to push it forward. And, with that, the interest, it only started to grow and grow. In July 2014 was when we had the first Elixir event.
There's such a great vibe. Everybody gets along, and it's so easy to be able to just approach anybody that's there to ask questions.
When I started with Elixir, I was amazed by the documentation that even was available at that time.
Elixir is always typically thought of as being great for concurrency and fast, and so if you're kind of solving those kind of problems, then it's a really good choice.
Whether you're building something to run on a Raspberry Pi Zero, $5 computer, or a 40-core server, like Elixir is going to be fantastically suited to.
You can't exactly replicate the environment in which people from the community are all in a single place.
Elixir is going to be on a track to start to conquer more and more industries. Some of the obvious ones that we've seen so far have been working with web development, but the scalability there isn't just confined to building websites. We work together with Chris and Jose from the Nerve side of things to be able to try to increase the number of concurrent connections and push the boundaries of how many devices we can actually get simultaneously connected to Phoenix, for example, because we really believe that it has capabilities of Internet of Things connectivity on the scale of millions of devices. And having that kind of connectivity starts to really open up the language and the industry to start working in all these different kinds of ways.
Phoenix is a web framework for the Elixir programming language, and it really is like a batteries included web framework for the platform. The first version of Phoenix, as written, supported like 30,000 users on one server, and then we made like 10 lines of change to the code, and that's what gave us 2 million users. What kind of problems or businesses could I build if what before took 100 servers could today take 2 servers? I think that's enabling a lot of innovation. So I think that's what's kind of bringing people in, is this promise of things that were either impossible to do before or prohibitively expensive to do. Now, as a single developer or a couple of people, you can come in and build something really compelling that wouldn't be doable before.
Right now we are in Elixir conference in Warsaw. We see Elixir conferences appearing all around the world. So we have in Mexico, Brazil, throughout the United States, we have a bunch of smaller conferences popping up. And then there are all the different talks where we can learn new things. And also, which is always very interesting, is to learn like use cases. You build the tool and then people start using those tools in these very different ways. You're like, look, I actually realized that this tool is also very good for this. And then you're like, it makes sense. Like I watched the talk and it makes total sense. So all those things are very exciting. If I try to centralize and I try to do everything on my own, I won't be able to do it. But if we say, everybody can contribute a small part to this and everybody together, decentralized, can do that and bring the community forward, then we have a chance of actually making a lasting impact. Beautiful.
All right, Seaver.
The distributed aspect of it, I thought was really interesting. I wasn't familiar of any other like frameworks.
Yeah, there's also Julia. I've heard that does distribute it as well. So I think it's more like a more modern feature for frameworks. Yeah, I should definitely mention it more.
It's like
Any more questions before I close up shop?
Are you using this like for a job or just fun?
Yeah, for fun. Yeah, and also I think it's pretty underrated in terms of like what it offers.
Well, Alex, before you stop, I just wanted to make a couple of announcements for future meetings. On October 9th, we're going to have a social event at a local restaurant. I'll announce the location soon. For November 13th, our technical presentation, is Josh there tonight? Josh Schroyer?
Yep, I'm here.
Josh, are you going to be able to give a talk on November 13th, or is that still undetermined?
I'll probably be able to. Yeah, I'm actually looking for a job right now.
Ooh, okay.
We'll see how that impacts things, but
Oh.
I imagine it should be fine. It's 2 months of time.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Good luck. I know last time I talked to you, you were with some startup, so good luck with your hunt.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Well, Alex,
Okay, thanks, Alex.
you said Elixir was good for like web development. Is it
Ye-
good for front end and the back end? Do you
Um,
know?
Mostly for the back end because it's no, there's no easy way to run it within a web page. Yeah, so JavaScript is like the king of front end web framework works. But I've heard that Python's starting to like challenge that.
So this is distributed, but they're still mentioning how it's gonna have to have servers out and about, so you're talking reduce serverlet, reduce servers in count. Whatever that is, and then that's able to push your code out to whoever's getting it, whether it's app, whether it's.
Yeah, so like how the documentary put it, yeah, I think this is more helps more like in like a microservices kind of way where it can distribute the load better.
And you're only playing with this, but if you're gonna be playing, if you were gonna design it properly, how would you set the stack up? You'd have. Well, describe the stack to me.
Yeah, so all right. Yeah. So I guess like for just like content like lookup, I can just make it like uh full the entire thing full stack with like a post Postgres uh database and rely on Hex for the front end stuff. But I think in some cases having like an actual front end would be good. So in that case, I could just use any front end JavaScript framework like React, Angular, and Vue. Those are the top three, but it could be any of those.
What would you?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, personally, I think Vue for the front end part simply because like Vue strikes the balance between like having like a complete front end, but like it's not too lightweight like React is. React's actually a library instead of a framework, believe it or not. So yeah, I think Vue would be like the best compromise.
You mentioned that a couple times you just kind of hinted at the fact that Elixir and Phoenix were connected to Ruby on Rails. Is there a reason to use Elixir and Phoenix, you know, instead of Ruby's on Rails? I mean, why is one faster than the other, or?
Yeah, I think definitely Phoenix's and Elixir are definitely faster than Ruby on and Ruby on Rails because Ruby is actually a interpreted language. So yeah, and then also you have the concurrency built in as well as the fault tolerance.
Before we split, I did have one question for the group, I guess for the, my presentation, I guess, in November. But we can hit that at the end if others had other questions.
It seems like a lot of the like special things about Elixir come from the fact that it's on this like Erlang or Beam virtual machine. Do you know anything specific about like what did that VM layer do? Like it's more aware of the network and distributed processes than like the JVM in some way. But do you have anything specific you could say about that? I was curious like where that power comes from.
Yeah, so Erlang, yeah, I think I've mentioned a few of them already, but they are like the fact that you can like restart the entire process without like having to shut down your virtual machine. And yeah, it takes a philosophy called like let it fail in terms of like how it handles problems, and that is that because most of the issues that happen with continuously running a service happen because the state becomes corrupted. The simplest way that Elixir deals with it was just let it crash and respawn a new version of that. So that's why you have like the cliche of fixing stuff by turning something off and then back on again.
Thanks. Very informative.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. I was named heard of Erlang, hadn't heard of the rest, so very new stuff, so interesting to learn.
Great to hear that. Yeah, and then also, yeah, I found out that there's a lot more functional languages, and I've also looked at F sharp for within the .NET framework as well. So there's definitely lots of stuff in the functional camp as well. So
So, yeah, if there's no other questions, I had a question for everyone here. I'm gonna be giving a presentation as, Clover mentioned, on November, or in November. I've been learning a lot about like AI, machine learning type stuff. I don't know if there's a couple different camps. You could go kind of like your classic like machine learning, linear regression models, like data science, like building up these models. I don't know if that's interesting to folks, or if you're more interested in like the generative AI aspect that's been like blowing up. You guys know what like embeddings are, like how that whole system works, for like the generative AI, like chatbots, etc. If that's more interesting to learn like on that side, or like the standard kind of like machine learning models that help you plot data, get something kind of reasonable out of that.
What do you feel more comfortable doing?
I will learn any of it. So yeah, like whatever. Honestly,
Something I'm curious about is when does Microsoft drop that they're going to be including an MPU in computers going forward in your on neuro processing unit, whatever. So I mean that's like hardware, software. There's all this generative stuff. You can make your pictures, whatever you want. But I'm more interested in like how you're gonna apply that the industrial. Sure, whatever. How they're going about it. That's more of a use case.
So like you're thinking more like business features, like application
Yeah,
features.
because from my standpoint, I could be full of shit that it looks, sure you can get a picture up on the wall, but how can you make some money off that for
Oh, well, you're talking to the wrong guy here, because my startup, I'm a failed, startup founder. We were doing a lot of exploring a lot of generative AI and machine learning, mostly on the generative AI front, like where we could leverage this new technology and different areas of business. So we're actually shutting down this month. So no, that's okay. That's okay. It was a fun like year and change experiment. So I learned a lot in the process, but in terms of making money, that one's really hard to do, I think, with this stuff, unless maybe you already have. The way I've shaped my thinking is it's more of a feature than it is a product, right? So you need to have
chatbots pop up everywhere.
Chatbots suck, but I mean, they're like building another chatbot, but yes, they're just everywhere, and it's like it's just saturating, the market, right? It's just here's another chatbot, here's another chatbot.
So where does it go after all that? All the new shiny new object syndrome passes on.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe this is great feedback for me to understand what's interesting to folks, but if you take a look at like the new mobile phones that are coming out, like Apple announced like all these full intelligence or AI, different meaning of AI, but they announced like these Apple Intelligence features, and really a lot of the benefit comes from if you're not asking like some chat bot to answer some questions, they're using it as the more interesting part is like the semantic index aspect of it, right?
So how big your base needs to be in order to pull value out of that.
Yeah, but also it's leveraging like all the data on your phone, and it creates that semantic index. So like when you start asking it things, that's where the embeddings come in, right? So again, like how this generative AI functionality actually works behind the scenes is it kind of thinks about I'm gonna put that in quotes. It thinks about like what you're asking and what you're saying in like a vectorized format. It's spatial. It thinks about it spatially, right? So it's kind of like it thinks of the word king as like being in some location, right? And so when you say, okay, take the word king, the vector, right? So it's math. You can do math on it. Let's add the vector for woman, and that might get you spatially close to the word queen, right? And that's kind of how it again thinks about these things. It's just all based off of location, right? Things that are near.
And that's kind of going into how it is, and I should probably learn about that before you give your presentation. Another spin is it's all cloud based, or a lot of it, like Llama or whatever. There's some offline versions as well, and that'd be something interesting to.
That's what like Apple are doing for their phones, right? Like, well, they're leveraging both, right? Which I think is
because they want to suck that sweet data back back at the mothership, right? So.
Oh well, I think it's okay. So there is definitely that point, but they're trying to keep as many requests local to the phone as possible. So you're not actually using a server to do the thinking aspect, but they do offload. Or will offload to like they've partnered with OpenAI, right? So ChatGPT for anything that they have deemed as like maybe too complex or too difficult, or might involve more resources than the phone will be able to realistically handle. And they'll do that just by some like temperature check, right? So you get the request that comes in, and they'll analyze it, and then they'll make a judgment call based on that, right? So really they have multiple layers of this generative AI or like bucketing machine learning kind of happening. Like, let me categorize this first to understand how I should handle this locally or like in the cloud, et cetera, et cetera. So
well, what I'd be really interested to hear about is like, I know that there's like a Python package that is effectively just a wrapper around ChatGPT's API, right? Like I could do that.
Chain.
Right. But like, what if I wanted to try to like, I don't know, kick the tires more locally? Like if I wanted to try to actually build a thing that is not like a client of a cloud-based LLM, but like if I wanted to try to run an LLM locally,
like a local LLM,
and like specialize it a little bit, right? Like if I wanted to learn Phoenix, I can install Phoenix and like spin up a web server on my laptop. But like, what is the install Phoenix and spin up a web server on your laptop of operating an LLM service? I'd be really interested to hear about that because I'd love to try it and I'm just not, there's
You don't
like,
wanna pay, is that like the
no,
limiting
I'm
factor
just
for you?
like, I just don't like, I don't feel like I know anything by like I don't learn any, like if I send a prompt, it like, to OpenAI and I get back bytes, I'm like,
Sure,
good job, OpenAI.
okay.
But like, I don't know,
So it
like,
really help you to understand, a language model and how it works and breaking it up into its pieces, maybe, right?
I mean,
Being able to run that locally.
yeah,
will help
just
you
like,
see that.
just like how to run it. Like, can we run a toy language model in
Yeah.
class, so to speak?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, cause
Yeah,
I
okay.
think that would be interesting, cause it's like,
That's a good
You're
idea.
saying you always see the lever to pull is the query, but you'd like to be able to pull the levers underneath it. That's kind
well,
of.
I'd like to know, yeah, I'd like to know a little bit about like, I don't wanna know how to use it, I wanna know how to build it.
Okay,
Like,
well,
I mean,
yeah.
obviously, we're not gonna get there an
Right.
hour, but like, yeah, and just from the perspective of operating and like, cause like I've worked on a lot of web services and you can run a fake but fairly good web service
Mhm.
locally.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't know exactly how to do that. Like if I was curious to run, and I think going through the like, okay, you need to download, I don't know, a giga file and load it up with this or whatever. Like I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Something I've played with is, it's called Tabby ML, and that's local. You download a 5 GB data size and you can ask all your coding questions, but that's words, not generative images. And that'd probably be 10 times the size of whatever the base
Yeah,
base layer is, but
yeah, that is, yeah, the language models are different than like the diffusion models, right, for like your image generation. To be honest, I don't have as much experience with that one, but this has been very helpful,
And then also, I've heard of experts.js, and I've heard of that one, and I would like to see like, how you can use AI to do like, useful stuff. And then also like, put it in a way that would make it easy for even like a computer science student who does not know what he or she is doing to like quickly put together a project.
fine.
Yeah, like basically an afternoon, or if they're working like an hour a day, pretty much a month.
Yeah, I mean, for all the hype AI is getting, I have yet to see it do anything truly practical. It's
Wow.
great at answering questions, it's great at.
GitHub Copilot, I think
teaching
is
you
real
stuff.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a Lambda that was like using the AWS V1 SDK and I literally pasted it in and like make it use V2.
Yeah.
And I had to fix like 2 typos and I shipped it.
Yeah.
And like, that was my like, oh, if I was starting my career today, I would not have the same path available to me moment. That
Yeah.
was,
That's the wow moment.
that was an interesting, like it worked. It
Yeah,
really,
it's
like,
great. It's
yeah.
great. I've really been enjoying that aspect of it. So that, I guess that's how you make money. Be GitHub, come up with the Copilot before anyone else, or maybe not before anyone else, but
Yeah, just make
be
it,
Microsoft. Yeah.
make it easier to get to, but
Yeah. Copilots have been another thing that I've been seeing, a lot
You can do a
in
talk on that
the
too.
industry. Oh, building a Copilot. Yeah, 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 could do that. And there's also a whole lot of other interesting things you can do with, the language models, like OpenAI, right? And some of the more advanced ones have, like these function calling aspects. It's really nice for being able to take like text and, you can break it down into like parameters, that would be hard for you to just take some like raw unstructured data and basically get some structure out of it, right? So yeah, it's pretty nice there, but, cool, thanks, guys, that was really helpful.
Looking forward to your talk.
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah.
Maybe bring a tape recorder with me.
Oh, sure.
So I can play it back 4 or 5 times to understand.
4 or 5, no, I'll try to make it as like understandable as possible.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Alright, if that's all, thank you everyone for coming. See you on next meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Next meeting, right?
Alright.
So,
Thanks, Alex.
that's right. and
You're welcome.
Will.
Everyone is dismissed.
Okay. I think I know everybody else's names here. I know it's Paul and wait. Does it start with an M?
Yeah.
Is it Mark?
Yeah.
Okay, Mark. got it.
Just assign the variables, you know, this will be A, this will be B.
There you go. Sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
A lot
I'm
easier.
bad names, so
Yeah.
Will, Zach, Josh, Paul, Mark.
That's right. All right. Got it.
Thanks,
All
Alex. It
familiar.
was a good talk.
Yes,
You're-
thank you.
You're welcome.
Interesting language.
Alright, I'm getting off. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah, what am I looking for?